Hello Internet, my name is Lave and I watched A Quiet Place, which is directed by John Krasinski in his directorial debut, I believe. He also stars alongside his real-life wife, Emily Blunt. Together they play a couple in the film with a young family trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world without making a sound. If they do, they are hunted by these things. So the trailers for this film got me curious, despite the fact that I don't think it's a wholly new or original concept to have a horror film that uses sound or the lack of sound to drive the tension and suspension. I think World War Z and Don't Breathe are recent examples that used it in sparing moments to good effect, and this film does use it to good effect. But what really impressed me about this film is that it commits to its concept for the entirety of its hour-and-a-half runtime, so there is a constant threat and a sense of dread as we follow this family who have managed to adapt to this environment because their daughter is deaf, so they can communicate via sign language. But that's not the only thing that impressed me about this film. I loved its minimalist approach to a lot of things, which really works in its favour. It never really explains how or why this is happening. It just drops you right in it and you experience it through the eyes of this family. It does give you visual clues and hints as to what has happened, but you never really know what these things are. It also hints that it is a global problem and that there are other people out there trying to deal with it as well, but the focus is always on this family and I was completely invested in them. The heart of this film, what it's really about, is parenting, albeit in this extreme survivalist situation. So all of their domestic problems are, pun intended, amplified. Not only do you see how this family have adapted to this world, but you also see this growing estrangement between the father and daughter, which the film sets up beautifully at the beginning. There's also some lovely tender moments where the husband and wife are able to share a dance together in pretty much the only scene apart from the score with some music in it. There's also a lovely father-son bonding moment where they're able to talk with each other verbally and air some problems that they have. What's interesting is that this film is all about communication, and despite the fact that this family can communicate with each other via sign language, they don't talk about this growing problem, which becomes the real heart and soul of this film. I've got to give it to the actors who don't have much dialogue to work with, so all of their performances are all physical. None of the kids annoyed me. Emily Blunt gives a typically good performance, and I really liked John Krasinski in front of camera and behind camera too. He clearly knows what he's doing. Along with his cinematographer, he lights his film extremely well. He's got good frame composition, and when the action is called for, it doesn't get too shaky cam or incomprehensible. The real key to this film for me is that you actually care about this family at the centre of it all, and when the horror elements do ramp up, and believe me it does, the first act of this film is full of tension and suspension, and then it turns into a white knuckle ride in the second and third act. I think if you're a horror fan, it won't disappoint you. So that's my thoughts on A Quiet Place, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. If you're a regular on my channel, you will know that horror isn't my favourite genre, so I didn't go into this one with particular high hopes, but I surprisingly quite enjoyed it because its drama is rooted in its characters, and when the horror elements kick in, it's executed extremely well. John Krasinski has proved himself a competent director. I do have some criticisms, which I'm going to get into now. I've saved it to the end of the video because the last horror film that I reviewed, I got accused of spoiling it, even though I don't think I did. So to stay safe, if you don't want anything spoiled, I don't think I'm going to go into anything massive here, but if you don't want anything spoiled, please like, share, sub, all of that stuff, go away. So the thing or things that are hunting them in this film are these monsters. They're blind, but they have super hearing, hence if you make a noise, they will come and kill you. You see glimpses of them at first, and as the film progresses, you see more and more of them, which is cool. In terms of their design, I think they're a bit generic. They kind of reminded me a bit of Venom via the way of a xenomorph mixed in with the creatures from Tim Burton's last film, Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children. But I will say that I think the CG is very good. They felt real and part of the environment, and they are extremely menacing. Now, the difference between this film and The Ritual, which is the film that I supposedly spoiled by saying that there is a monster, despite the fact that it turns up in the first act, The difference is that this one, it doesn't stop to tell you what these things are or why these things are. They're just there and they're killing, which is good. The problem I have is that these creatures are seemingly indestructible until a certain weakness is uncovered, which does lead to a really cool Ripley-esque moment. But I just feel that in this modern world of modern warfare and weapons, I'm pretty sure that the military would be able to handle them, because you do see one of them get dispatched at one point. And I do praise the film for sticking to its premise and its concept, but I also think that it does reveal a plot hole in the fact that they are living on this farm which is in the middle of nowhere and very quiet, and then the father and son have this really lovely moment where they are able to talk by the river because the ambient noise is louder. So I was questioning, why don't they just live nearer the river where it's noisier so they can maybe talk a little bit more? The other problem that I had is that the film establishes that this family have been living in this world where all of this shit has gone down for at least 89 days. Something pretty big happens and it cuts to 474 days later, and in the interim, the mum and dad have decided to have a baby. Now, babies, we all know, aren't the quietest thing, and they're not a dumb family, so I was questioning, why would they risk it? It's not like they don't have kids already. So it just felt like the writers added the whole baby plot to try and give it another dimension, when personally I don't think it was really needed. To be honest, I can forgive this film for those leaps in logic because I didn't think about them until after I'd seen it. As a cinematic experience, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you enjoy the horror genre, I think you will too. So thanks very much for watching my review of A Quiet Place. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give this video a like, and don't forget to share the Lave.
Subscribe.